A few weeks ago, I spoke about Grace Tame and uncomfortable truth-telling. Grace Tame is a modern prophet, and like the prophets of old, has experienced the dismissiveness of society, the unbelief, and been treated harshly. Prophets rarely have an easy time. Just ask Jeremiah, or Jonah, or John the Baptist. And whilst this alliterative group leads us neatly to Jesus and Jerusalem, we would be wrong to think that there is anything neat about prophetic actions. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. There's a deep pain in Jesus' voice in this gospel cry, which contains one of the most beautiful and tender and caring images for God in all Scripture. This image of the mother hen is a sharp and pointed contrast to the designation of Herod as a fox, the predator of the hen, and Jesus' clear understanding that some of the Pharisees are dancing dangerously with said fox. Contrast this then to the image of Jesus as a mother hen yearning to gather the chicks under her wings, but they were not willing. They would not accept the love, the welcome, the shelter. And this was their sin. They refused the generous, loving, embracing hospitality of God. Hospitality is more than just a nice cup of tea or coffee. Hospitality at its heart is abundant welcome. We associate hospitality with food, and when we look in the Gospels, often the parables or miracles in which we encounter this generous, radical hospitality of God, the feeding of the 5,000, the wedding at Cana, the lavish banquet, do have a focus on food. Food and being fed are central to our very living. The simplest meal can be transformed by company and welcome. It is no coincidence that the sign of God's love for us in the sacrament is to be gathered around a meal where all are welcome at the table. Gathering around a table, we are fed physically, emotionally, and spiritually. But true hospitality is more than the bread we eat. True hospitality is about the welcome, the love. The experience of true hospitality assures us that however alien the environment, we feel at home. We know that we are safe and secure. There's a lot in our current world situation which focuses us on welcome and shelter. Seeking refuge from violent rulers with domination on their mind is nothing new. Jesus was carried into Egypt by Joseph and Mary to avoid Herod's wrath. And so we see thousands fleeing Ukraine, and we are overwhelmed with emotion. You may have seen, as I did, a photograph of empty prams and strollers lined up at a Polish railway station. Not abandoned by fleeing families, as I first thought, but that left there by Polish parents for Ukrainian parents to use on their journey. This simple act was an act of radical, abundant, generous welcome. This was hospitality. Much has been made of the Polish welcome to Ukrainians. I saw a post on the internet which read, "Why does Poland support Ukrainians so much? We are simply doing what no one did for us during the invasion of our country by Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia in 1939. The Polish nation knows the pain of war. It's a powerful statement. Memories run deep. And importantly, for the Polish people, they know that there are always opportunities to model a better way. And as we read more closely the stories of those seeking refuge from this violence and war, there are disturbing stories emerging that not everyone seeking refuge is being treated equally. There is discrimination on the basis of race, colour, ethnicity. This is the antithesis of radical, abundant hospitality. This is an attitude of not willingness, which refuses to recognise the image of God in the other. We're not innocent of this sin as Australians. Our record of welcoming the other doesn't stand much scrutiny. There are still refugees being held in detention, their only crime being to seek a safe place to call home. But seeking a place to call home is more than fleeing a literal war zone. Sometimes the wars are less obvious. Discrimination and cruelty on the basis of gender, sexuality, race, belief, colour, education, wealth. The list goes on as long as the list of prejudices. And the challenge to us as a community is, are we willing to be Christ-like? And do we yearn to gather under our wings for safety, protection, and a place to call home? Are we truly willing to offer radical, generous hospitality and to welcome the one whose experience is different to our individual experience? A story. On our recent holiday, we went looking for somewhere to have dinner in a town in which we were staying. We'd arrived late, and so I'd done some research to make sure the place that we were going to would still be open. The research said that this place was renowned for its excellent pub meals. When we pulled up outside, however, the venue did not match my internal vision of a place that would be renowned for excellent meals. I may have said, I think we've made a terrible mistake. Walking into the bar and discovering the kitchen had just closed only confirmed my prejudices. However, the welcome we received from the barman and the local having a pint, their unashamed enthusiasm and sheer delight that we had sought them out and chosen to come to their place, led us to make a booking for another night and return. And despite my misgivings, my prejudiced misgivings, when we returned, we were greeted enthusiastically and warmly as friends, not strangers. We were cared for attentively and enjoyed one of the best and most lavish meals of the holiday. In that moment, we experienced radical, genuine, generous hospitality. And you'd better believe it. I'm now an enthusiastic evangelist for that pub. Ask me for the details later. As a community of faith, are we willing to offer generous, radical hospitality? To recognise that not all wounds are visible, to yearn to gather, to risk ourselves in order to protect and care for one another? Are we prepared to be discomforted, to open ourselves and allow the experience of welcome to change us? As I said, it is no coincidence that Jesus gives us a meal to share as a central action of knowing God's love poured out for all. Are we willing to welcome all to the table? Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. Are we? Are we willing? Amen.